Hello, friends. Recently, Matt Fradd from Pints with Aquinas posted a video called Every Objection to Mary Answered with William Albrecht and Christian Koppas. That is a 3-hour and 17-minute video that I have not watched all of. However, Matt did publish a short, which is only 13 and a half minutes, titled, What About Jesus' quote-unquote brothers? In this short, William and Christian discuss with Matt the Marian dogma of perpetual virginity. This is dogma according to the Catholic Church, so the stakes for belief are rather high. When I lost my belief in Catholicism, I no longer had to maintain that Mary was a perpetual virgin, but I was open to the idea that she never had any kids after Jesus, and that's really all that I need in order to maintain the perpetual virginity, at least, post Jesus. But I didn't maintain that belief. I lost it. I like to think I'm impartial. As a kind of ex-Catholic, maybe I'm not. I'll let you be the judge of that. But regardless, I thought it would be fun to do an episode where I just share my opinions with you about the possibility of Jesus having had siblings born of Mary after he was born. Let's begin. So I mentioned that the stakes are kind of high here, and they are. Catholics, as far as I can tell, are bound to believe that Mary is a perpetual virgin. This was defined at the Second Council of Constantinople, where the council recognized Mary as a Parthenos, meaning ever virgin. Additionally, Pope Martin I at the Lateran Council of 649 declared as follows: the blessed, ever virginal, and immaculate Mary, conceived without seed by the Holy Spirit and without the loss of integrity, brought him forth, and after his birth, preserved her virginity inviolate. This is clear. Catholics are bound to believe in the perpetual virginity of Mary. But I don't. Why? Perhaps it's strong to say that I plain old don't believe in the perpetual virginity of Mary. What I really mean is that I don't think that the authors of the Synoptic Gospels thought that Mary was a perpetual virgin. The Synoptics are Mark, Matthew, and Luke. I'm not positive about John for reasons we'll discuss in a little bit. I'm going to primarily focus on the Gospel of Matthew for most of my quotations from the Bible to back up my point. Let's start with the Gospel of Matthew chapter 10, where the names of the 12 disciples are listed. And he called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every disease and every affliction. The names of the 12 apostles are these. First, Simon, who's called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, and Matthew, the tax collector, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Cananean, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. There are two disciples named James. James, the son of Zebedee, and James, the son of Alphaeus. I grew up Catholic, so I just referred to these two as James the Greater and James the Lesser, where James the Greater was the son of Zebedee and James the Lesser, the son of Alphaeus. The life and lineage of James the Greater, James the son of Zebedee, is outside the scope of this video, but this post will be speaking about James the Lesser, James the son of Alphaeus. And for the sake of the rest of this video, I'm going to refer to James the Lesser, James the son of Alphaeus, as just James. So, James's father is identified as Alphaeus in Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 27 describes the women going to the tomb as follows. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. So, which of the two Jameses are we talking about for Mary the mother of James and Joseph? Well, not Mary, the mother of Zebedee's sons, because that's James the Greater. So the only James that's left over is James the Lesser. So Mary is the mother of James, son of Alphaeus. That's important. So does that mean that Mary, the mother of God, didn't go to the tomb? Well, if Mary, the mother of God, is not Mary, the mother of James, then yeah. And this is actually the belief that Catholics have held for a long time. This is not really a problem, other than it seems a little weird that Mary wouldn't visit her son's tomb. But I do think that Mary, the mother of God, did visit her son's tomb. She just also happened to have been James's mother. The 2nd century historian Hegesippus, who lived before St. Jerome, importantly, argued that Mary of Clopas was likely Mary's, the mother of Jesus's, sister-in-law, understanding Clopas to have been Joseph's brother. St. Jerome thinks that Mary of Clopas, Mary who is married to Clopas, is actually Mary, the mother of James. I think St. Jerome is wrong. Why? Because we already know James's father's name. It's Alphaeus. So Mary of Clopas couldn't be the mother of James, the lesser. Because he's not James of Clopas, he's James of Alphaeus. Unless you want to think that Clopas and Alphaeus are the same person. Sometimes ancient peoples did have 2 different names, but we already have a second name for Clopas. Cleophas would have been his other name. So a third name referring to the same guy seems pretty darn unlikely. Not to mention, we have no reason to think that Alphaeus is Joseph's brother, but we do have reason to think that Clopas or Cleophas is Joseph's brother. So I think Jerome is just plain old wrong about the identity of the Mary who visited the tomb. I don't think that Mary of Clopas is Mary, the mother of James, son of Alphaeus. Another reason why I think that is because if Mary of Clopas was the Mary who visited the tomb and was James's mother, then that would make James a cousin of Jesus, not a brother of Jesus, which you might not think is a big deal because that Greek word adelphos does apply to cousins sometimes, except not really. Adelphos works a lot like English, actually, where brother can mean brother, but it can also just mean like, friend, like brother from another mother. So the most common example of the Bible using the word adelphos in this manner is when St. Paul writes about Jesus appearing to the 500 brothers. Adelphos. Do you think that Jesus had 500 literal brothers? No. So the word adelphos there is clearly being used metaphorically. But Paul didn't write the Gospel of Matthew. And the Gospel of Matthew identifies James as the adelphos of Jesus and not the rest of the apostles. Why would James be given the title of brother if the 500 are given the title of brother, but the rest of the apostles aren't? It's almost like context matters, and that the author of the Gospel of Matthew was setting apart James specifically as the brother of Jesus. Brother to adelphos. Koine Greek has a word for cousin, and they didn't use the word for cousin. So why would they call James the brother of Jesus if he was actually the cousin? There's a word for cousin, and brother doesn't really mean cousin, but brother can mean friend, but also the rest of the friends weren't being called friends, they were just being called apostles. All arrows seem to point to the Gospel of Matthew's author thinking that James was the brother of Jesus, like actually brother. Now, in ancient times, brother normally meant from the same mother. It didn't necessarily mean from the same father. And that checks out. James the Lesser is not James the son of Joseph. He's James the son of Alphaeus. Jesus would have been Jesus the son of Joseph, but they shared the same mother. And we know from the Gospel of Matthew that both of their mothers have the same name, Mary. We know that they are referred to as brothers when the rest of the apostles aren't. We know that they have different fathers' names. It all checks out. One of the best arguments against this position is from the Gospel of John. When Jesus is on the cross, he gives Mary to John, not James. If James was Jesus' half-brother, and more importantly, was also Mary's son, why the heck would Jesus give James, why the heck would Jesus give Mary to John instead of Mary to James? Well, to me, that's kind of easy. The Gospel of John was written like 20 or 30 years after the Gospel of Matthew. I don't think that the Gospel writers were talking to each other that much. I think that the author of the Gospel of John might have had different familial relations in mind when he wrote his Gospel when compared to the author of the Gospel of Matthew. They get a lot of other details, pretty different as well, why wouldn't we expect them to get the family pretty different too? Further, there's a later Catholic tradition that says that James was the son of Salome, the sister of Mary, making John a cousin of Jesus. But the Gospel of Matthew identifies the name of the mother of James as Mary, not Salome, so that doesn't work. I've had conversations with Catholics about this, and sometimes they'll answer something like this: the perpetual virginity of Mary is epistemically prior to any kind of interpretation of Scripture. Okay, if you're going to let the tail wag the dog in that sense, then there's nothing much I can say to you. You've reached the conclusion that Mary was a perpetual virgin. Why? Well, because it's dogma and you have to. And then there's not much I can say to that. So, very well. If that is your epistemic position, there's nothing that I can say to convince you. Have a nice day. But I don't think that the church is infallible. And so I'm free to kind of have fun with this question. I don't actually care too much about this topic. And so I will very quickly change my mind if somebody just brings up something that I haven't considered before. I did spend like a decent amount of time researching this a while ago, just kind of for fun though, because if it is true, then the church is false, right? Because, you know, some supposedly infallible doctrines are wrong. But if the counterfactual is the case, then I kind of lose nothing. So this doesn't actually matter much to me. I just kind of thought it was interesting because I like biblical scholarship. And most of the biblical scholars do seem to fall on the side of Jesus having half-siblings, James being the half-sibling of Jesus. But again, I would be totally happy to change my mind about this. I don't find it to be that big of a deal. So with that, Catholics, I think most of you probably want to tell me I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. Put in the comments down below. Shoot me an email at nontraditionalcatholic@gmail.com. I'd love to have you on the show and we can talk about this. Again, I'm pretty darn open to changing my mind on this one. So, do it. Change my mind. Until next time.